Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of the podcast and a very happy new year as well. It is wonderful to be seeing in 2023 together. This episode, of course, I have an incredible guest for you who is the amazing Corrine Whillock. And Corrine is a boot camper, which means she's taken part in the Jewellery Business Bootcamp. She took part last year and had an amazing year this year. She built a 30k jewellery business in just 1 year. We'll hear a bit more about that. And she used the bootcamp as well as, her own tenacity and, all the hard work that goes into creating a jewelry business, and was able to, move quite quickly. And all of our jewelry businesses are different. Some of us are on a slow burner journey. Some of us just throw ourselves in there. But I thought this was a wonderful story to be able to share with you guys, to give you some inspiration as you start the new year and see what is possible for you in your business as well. So Corine's business is called Lulu and Boo, and we'll be talking more about it in just a moment. And she focuses on handmade, recycled silver and gold jewelry. She designs and crafts all of her jewelry. It's sustainable. That's a key focus for her. And she is based in Wiltshire. So welcome, Corrine. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi there. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And I always love meeting with boot campers because we go on this kind of journey together, don't we? And then, it kind of progresses over the year. And then it's nice to look back as it comes towards the end of the year, start of the new year, and see what worked, what didn't. But before we get into your bootcamp journey and your business, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you come to making jewelry? Is it something you've always done? Is it a second career? Where did that kind of passion come from?
So I've always loved jewelry. I've always been a bit of a magpie for sparkly things. And it was really quite by accident. I bumped into an old school friend in the street, and she had a really gorgeous bracelet on. And I said, "Oh, I love your bracelet." And she said, "I made it." And I was like, "You made it?" She said, "Yeah, I've been doing these courses." And that was in silver clay to start with. And so I said, gosh, I'd be really interested in doing that. So I enrolled in the silver clay classes before COVID. So it must have been about probably 2018, I would say. I started with silver clay and carried that on. And then, of course, things went a bit pear-shaped over COVID. And I really put it to sleep a little bit. But when I went back to it, I went back to a silversmithing course. And then that was my real love. I'm much more heavy-handed. Silver clay, I tend to get it to the snappy part and then snap it and get really irate. And so I'm much better with some hammers and a blowtorch. And so yeah, it's just sort of gone from there. So I carried on sort of dipping in and out of evening classes until last year, really. So the sort of middle of this year. So yeah, it's and then I've carried on learning online with you guys, doing Jewellers Academy classes online, which have been super amazing, and getting support from all of the Jewellers Academy groups online. There's never a silly question, which is something I really love, because you can just ask anything and nobody will be sort of judgy, or they'll just be so supportive in their answers, which is, I think, amazing, and it's been a huge support for me in learning.
Yeah, absolutely, because we're all a beginner. Like, I always remember, I'd always say, like, before I did my first jewelry class, I just had no clue. Like, I didn't even know what pliers, like which pliers you use or what wire. It was even just like a beading class. And yeah, we're all here to learn, aren't we? And to experience the benefit of each other. So yes, thank you for saying that. I think it is a very supportive space. And so you started with a silver clay, then had a bit of a break, came to the silversmithing. Was it like a eureka moment where you were like, this is my thing? Or was it more of like a kind of slow burn? Because I'm guessing you were working a different job before, or perhaps you still are now. How is your work situation kind of coexisting
yes.
with your business?
Well, that's so when I first started, I was a midwife for 20 years. So completely different. I've done lots of completely different things. And about 7 years ago, I decided to give up midwifery and start my other passion in life is dogs. So I'm a massive dog lover, dogs and jewelry. So I decided to leave midwifery and set up a dog walking business. which was really, really successful and still is successful. But when COVID struck, the business went to sleep a little bit. Right. Because people didn't need their dogs walked. We were only allowed to work. So yeah. And also my husband left the army at the same time, so he was able to sort of carry on with what little bit of dog walking was left. And I went to work for Public Health England on COVID as a project manager, which was a total curveball because I never thought I would be working for anybody again. But you know, really enjoyable, really interesting. I learned lots and lots, but it wasn't my bag. Very data based, very. And then I was sort of doing the jewellery. I'd started sort of putting stuff out on Instagram and creating this little, you know, my Instagram account and creating some followers and some interest. And then people just sort of started to contact me and said, where can we buy this? You know, we like to, do you have a shop? Do you have a website? And I sort of felt like I needed to catch up with that. I also, whilst the job was super interesting at Public Health England, it wasn't really my passion. So I left in January this year. It was a big step, but I left my job. I had a little bit of the dog walking to sort of act as a bit of a buffer for me because that had come back. And so I had a few dogs back off of my husband and gave him a bit of a rest. And then I sort of grew the jewellery business alongside the dog walking business over the year. Something needs to change there now because I'm a little bit too busy to keep stopping making jewellery at lunchtime and going out and walking dogs. So we're going to have to reevaluate that in the new year. But yeah, it was a big step, but I did have a bit of a buffer because I know people find that quite difficult to sort of say, how would I ever lose my, leave my job? And so I think it is quite nice when I left midwifery, I could stay as a bank midwife and have that sort of little transitional buffer to growing my dog walking business. And when I left the project manager business, I had this sort of buffer of a few of the dogs to be able to. So I think that's the key, really. If you want to leave a permanent role and go into making jewelry permanently, then it's just to sort of put yourself in place a little buffer that's going to just cover your bills while you build the business up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I often share I did nannying 3 days a week when I started my business because it just felt like, I always say it felt easy, obviously. Like there's some bits that are challenging, but it felt like a kind of straightforward thing for me to do that didn't take too much of my brain energy. And perhaps that was the same with your dog walking.
Yeah.
You've done for a long time that you're like, I can do this. It's kind of easy. It doesn't take too much from me. And then I've got some space to build this new business. As like you said, you kind of transition over.
Yeah.
So how did you come across the boot camp, and how did you kind of make this decision, I suppose, to really like go in with your business? Or had you already made the decision and were you using it as a tool to kind of kickstart?
I think I'd sort of been part of the Jewellers Academy community. I'd done some courses. I was on part of the Facebook group. And as soon as I sort of started to think, as soon as people, I suppose, started to say, where do we buy your jewellery? I was thinking, I do have a bit of an inner entrepreneur in me. I have set up another business as well, which continues. I've sold it, but I think I see a little business opportunity and I do tend to go for it. And so the boot camp, I've never done retail before. So the boot camp I felt was just going to really help me. And also a jewelry business was a complete departure, really. So I thought I need that sort of structure and that advice. And it just really appealed to me. The whole Jewellers Academy thing, you know, I'd found such a valuable resource to that point that I thought, right, I'm going to so yeah, I was chomping at the bit. I think I was like messaging going, when's boot camp going to be advertised, and like have my new exercise book and
love that you were ready, raring to go.
Yeah.
And I think it really does work. I mean, it can work for anybody, and sometimes people join and they're really kind of deflated and it gives them an energy. But I think if you go in ready, like I was like that when I started my business, and I'm generally like that in businesses, I'm like, what's next? Let's do it. Then there's so much that you can kind of gain from it. And I think one of the interesting things, I mean, anyone who's listening who doesn't know what we're talking about, just I'll explain very briefly. The Jewellery Business Bootcamp is an 8-week program we run every year at the beginning of the year. It normally starts in about February, so we give you January off to rest a bit after the Christmas sale season. And then and it's, you know, weekly content, all different areas in how to run a successful, profitable jewelry business. But I think what's interesting to me is that different people find different elements of it useful in different years. So I'm curious to know what areas, and you talked about this a bit when we kind of emailed before, but just to explain, what areas did you find, because you already had some experience, so you probably didn't need every single module, but which ones did you focus on and how do you think that helped?
I think it really helped me to focus my mind on, we had to create a business growth plan, didn't we? So that was a really useful structure for me. And it wasn't a big scary thing. You do hand it in at the end, but it was just quite a nice visual thing, which actually I used to look back at quite a lot. I used Canva to make it. And it's just like a slideshow of, you know, you had to set your goals. You had to set your, we divided the year up into quarters, which I found really useful. It's gone out the window a little bit. I had some curveballs, which
it always does.
Yeah.
But you had a plan, at least.
I had a plan, and then I had some, you know, amazing opportunities which took me sort of on a different path, but that was great. I think, yeah, just giving me, I mean, when you said, tell us, write down what you want to make this year, and I was just like, I've got absolutely no idea, you know, absolutely no idea. So it was, and then you said double it, and I nearly vomited.
Because I think you said you started with 5,000. You had no idea what to write, but you were like, okay, let's just go for 5,000 random.
Yeah.
Number. And then, you know, anyone who's not done training with me before, spoiler alert, I like to make people want to vomit. So I say, okay, get the number that you want, and then we're going to double it and go for that. So that would have taken you up to 10. But actually, you massively smashed that goal.
Yeah, I'm nearly at 8 times my 5,000 original target, which is amazing. I'm blown away. It's been hard work. I've worked really hard. It's been quite a stressful year, I'm going to be completely honest.
Please do.
I've invested heavily. And I suppose because I've set the 2 businesses up before, I've understood that as a process that I needed to go through. Yeah. So I sort of ride the storm. And, you know, so there was a point when I had a lot of money, you know, I owed a lot of money. And I thought, this is, you know, I just need to keep working through this. And I did keep working through it. But that is quite a scary place. But I've done that 3 times now, to 3 varying extents with 3 different businesses. And you do, if you keep working and keep sort of plugging away and, you know, following the advice that you'll learn in the boot camp, you will turn that corner. And I did break even in December. So that was really from April. Yeah, I'm delighted. So yeah, that was a huge, because I have spent I can't remember what the figure is now, but it is my spreadsheet of doom is about probably £28,000, which is, you know, there was a lot of materials in there. There was training. I outsourced setting up my website, because although there's huge amount of help on the bootcamp with setting up your website, so you can do it yourself, people just kept ordering jewelry. And I was like,
great problem to have.
Yeah. And I couldn't, it was a great problem to have. And I just there weren't enough hours in the day. So there was an amazing local lady that has a website company who I would recommend anyone to. And she set me up a brilliant website that wasn't that expensive. So that was brilliant. Training, you know, I invested in training. Obviously, the boot camp itself was part of my investment in me and the business. Big things like I bought a rolling mill. I don't use it that often, but I I do use it, but I felt like let's just get up. So now I feel like when I'm going into next year, I've got all of those building blocks in place really, and there's not a huge amount more I need. So I feel like it has really turned. I've broken even and I've done all the heavy lifting. So I do feel like I can go forward and actually earn some money.
Yeah, wonderful. And that's, it takes a lot of people many years to get to that point. And I think, because you've run businesses before, like you said, you have a bit more of the confidence that, we're spending, but it's going to come back. And everyone will have their own journey with that. There'll be people listening who are similar, and there'll be people listening who think, I couldn't do it that way. And that's okay as well. You might do that over 5 or 10 years. So,
sure.
A few thousand each year, but it's nice to see how it can be done. And I think you said you spent around 28,000, you brought in around just under 32. So you have made some in there, and like you said, you've now got the workshop, a lot of the groundwork, so that next year you kind of got a plan for profitability. And I think that's always really exciting with the business, is to see the future and how those profit margins will change over time, instead of the kind of, we talk about like the finger crossing, close your eyes and hope technique,
yes.
where it's a lot more stressful. But so where would you say the demand has come from? Because I guess a lot of people listening would be like, wow, to get that many sales in the first sort of real year of business. Is it from Instagram? Is it from people you know? I know you've done some fairs and events. Were you just like, did you go all in with your marketing?
Yeah, I think I do. I'm a bit of a pain on Instagram. It's fairly relentless. But I sort of think that's my main driver to get people to the website. The website didn't launch until late July. Before that, I can't remember what the figure is that you guys quote, but I think, do you say like your first 100 sales will come from friends and family?
Yeah, it's about £10,000 usually.
Yeah. And I think that's absolutely right. And still, actually, there's a lot of friends and family support. And I would say friends in inverted commas, because it's a sort of extended friend network now. And there's been this sort of, I call it like a little snowball, like this little snowball's rolling down the hill. And as it rolls, it sort of gathers, because the friends have brought their friends. And then the friends have told other friends. So I've made new friends through the business, which is really lovely. And that we're essentially customers, but we've just really hit it off, and then they've brought somebody else along. So it's been quite organic. It's sort of grown, just really sort of felt really naturally. And then I do, since launching the website, have like, I'll get a random order and it'll be Kent, and I'll be like, oh, that's a total, and there's more and more of those happening. So that's really interesting. Etsy hasn't really worked for me. I know it works amazing for lots of people, but I haven't made a single sale on Etsy. I think I had a bit of a wobble. I made lots and lots of jewellery in the sort of third quarter of the year, and was a bit like, oh my word, I really need to shift some of this, because I've invested hard and I need to make some of this back. So I set up an Etsy shop, and that hasn't been great for me, but people have really different experiences with it. And I know that some people do amazingly on Etsy. So it's really been through the website. I've done fairs with varying success. Sometimes you just stand there all day and you're like, you say the same thing over and over again. Yeah, smiling. And then you come home, and I've always sold something, and I've always sold probably 2 or 3 pieces. So at the end of the day, I've come to realize that it's not like selling bath bombs or brownies. You don't have to shift 10 every 10 minutes you might only sell 1 piece of jewelry every 4 hours, but at the end of the day you might think, that's okay, I made an okay, so that was quite a learning curve. And then quite out of the blue in the summer, I was contacted by Winchester Christmas Market, who were trying to sort of shake things up and become a bit more artisan. They really like the sustainable approach of the business, and so I only did a week. I was a complete scaredy cat. I just didn't know how to attack it. They asked me to do 3, and I just said, look, please, can I just do 1 this year, because I don't know, do I make 10 bangles or do I make 40 bangles? Because actually the investment in making 40 bangles is really huge, and I don't want to be left with 30 bangles at the end of it, so yeah, I've got a much better insight in on how to sort of approach that going forward. And it was brilliant. I will definitely do the 3 weeks next year. Now I've got my big girl pants on and I know how to sort of approach it a bit more. But
you've got some experience now, and I think that's, you can't replace experience. I mean, the training is wonderful to get you to a certain stage, but every business is unique as well. And what you will sell one year and what somebody else will sell. But it sounds like you're really learning about your business and listening and getting feedback and then putting it into action quite quickly as well. I mean, I asked on the Facebook group, what should I do? And a lot of people had said you need really sort of lots of stocking fillers. And I felt a bit conflicted because I thought I don't want to just completely change my style and my, so that was quite, something I had to really think about because my style is quite organic and I didn't want to sort of just churn out a load of bits that weren't really true to my style. So actually I made some watercast studs, which were really organic and unique and just quite straightforward to make, quite cost effective to make, and they were amazing. They really did fly out, and I had to sort of make some more. But people, if they love your work, and this is one of the things actually I wanted to mention, is one of your other podcasts by Sunny Bailey, when he says, just do you and stay true to you and your people will find you. And that really resonated with me when I listened to that podcast, and I always think about it. And it's true, they do. So if people do, even if your price point is a little bit more than maybe some other people's at markets, if they love your work, they will buy it. So, I've just really tried to, there's been a couple of deviations. There's a couple of things I've made that I've thought, it's not really me. You're making that because you think people are going to buy it and not because you. Yeah. And they sort of have bought it. But I sometimes think like, oh, don't do that. Just stick to what you love. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're right when you stay true to that style. Your passion for your business is there, so selling it is so much easier because you truly think that it will benefit people. Whereas I've always found if I'm trying to sell something that I don't really like, that's almost impossible for me. Because I think, well, I don't like it, why should you want it? I think you have that kind of energy behind you. And can you talk us through a bit your pricing journey as well? Because that's always a bit of a journey when you're starting out. And obviously you've had other businesses before, but did the bootcamp help you with some of that and working out for a jewellery business?
Massively. There's a spreadsheet, which I don't sort of use anymore, but I understand. I use it in my head. So the spreadsheet that you're given in bootcamp gives you all of your your material costs, your time. You talk to us about how to value our time, because I think people undervalue their time. Or I do know jewelers that have just literally not even factored their time into their pricing. And so looking at how much you should be charging for your time, how to record accurately the time that you're spending on things, and then looking at your one-offs like your hallmarking and your postage and things like that. So I definitely apply that, and then I think there's a bit of intuition with pricing as well, because with some pieces you think that's come out a bit expensive, I'm not sure, and then with other things you think, well, actually I really think that piece could I could price that higher than that. So I do use that as a framework, which has been incredibly helpful. And then I have a little bit of a sense around things now. What would I pay? What are similar products out there priced at in comparable type? And the other thing that was really useful around pricing was defining our target audience. So your target customer. I found that a really useful exercise because I'd never really thought about that before. So we had to do a real visual board on who's your target customer, who is she, who is he, where do they shop, what do they look like, what do they wear, and that was really useful. And I think I really factored that into my pricing as well.
Yeah, wonderful. You've been great at taking the tools and just applying them. And I think part of that is having that zest behind you at the beginning. Like, I'm just going to run with this. I'm just going to go with it. Did you ever have any fear? And how have you overcome that?
Yeah, the credit card bills were a bit nasty at one point. It's like I just kept sort of paying things and thinking. But yeah, I think, I kept thinking, trust the process, this is what has to happen. I was getting increasing interest and really amazing feedback from customers. So that really buoys you up. You always have wobbles. There have been wobbly moments, and like every other woman at my age group, I'm a hormonal sick, more patches on mess, and that doesn't help. You have natural anxieties and all of those things. Life just feeds into that sort of self-confidence and anxiety levels and things. So that I think that's completely natural, but it's just sort of, just remaining focused, trying to remind yourself of the good things, like, yes, I might be feeling anxious today, but why is that? Actually, I've had all of this positive feedback. I've just received another order. I've just received a lovely message from a customer saying how delighted they are. So trying to sort of put the anxiety and the hormonal stuff to bed, and just keep yourself buoyed up by the positivity.
Yeah.
And yeah, just, I'm not the best at giving myself a pat on the back, or as soon as I achieve it, I think, oh yeah, that's must be easy then if I've achieved it. And I think actually we've got to be a bit, and I do try to be more, actually, come on, this is a big achievement. And being asked to do Winchester was a big achievement, and having exceeded my target takings by so much is a big achievement. And just trying to sort of really channel that positivity in the way that you speak to yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much confidence in your business already to have that many sales, which, yeah, like you said, you would think that would naturally mean that we're more confident. But if we're typically not the kind of people that celebrate wins and take time to pause and say, oh my goodness, I've done all of this, then it's such an important thing to consciously do that, isn't it? And sort of say, wow, this is a huge success. And I put the work in. I went big. I took some risks, and here I am, and yeah, kind of then look forwards as to what's coming next, which I guess is a good next question. What is next for you? You've done so much already this year, but like you said, you're kind of laying foundations. What kind of things? And we haven't got there yet. We're not on boot camp yet. You don't have to have set all your goals for the year. We can do that together. But what are some of the things in your mind that you would like to see going forwards for your business?
I think I'll just, I feel like I'm at a little bit of a turning point with the business about where do I go next. So I need to do some thinking about that. I need to get better with my financial management, because this year it's just been go hard, invest hard, work hard, sell as much as you can, to sort of get out of that financial hole, change the balance, break even. And now I feel like, right, you need to really start doing a deeper dive on the financial management and margins and things of the business, because it's just been a bit sort of head down, spend, work, sell, get on with it. So I think I can get a bit more into the nitty gritty of it. So I'll do boot camp again, because there are loads of people that come back year after year, weren't there? And sort of you can dip in and out, which is great, because last year I was a real newbie, and there were lots of newbies, but there were also lots of people that already had existing businesses that just wanted to fine tune a particular part of their business. So I think that's really great, because also the feedback that you're getting from those existing business owners was a real help to me in showing that you can do it. And so yeah, I think the financial management of the business needs to get better. I think I'll try and do some press. I haven't really done much press. So yeah, so carry on with my advertising, or marketing on Instagram and things. I had a target for my Instagram followers this year, and I've reached it, so just try and push that.
Brilliant.
more, because that's tough. I haven't managed to sort of hit that magic button on the algorithm yet. So I feel my followers are with me and they're really with me, and it's been quite organic and quite slow and but I feel like they're there to stay. But yeah,
also, I think it's amazing to look at how many followers you have and the income you have, because often we think to have a successful business you need like 30,000 followers or something, or 10,000 or something crazy, and you obviously started with zero like everyone, and I'm not sure how, I know you have more than 1,000 now, but compared to the sales you have, it's actually, you know, it's quite, yes, you don't need that many. And I think that that's an interesting thing when we look at our figures and we think, oh, I've only got an extra 2 today or whatever. Everyone counts, don't they? Like, yeah, you said, the loyal followers, then, you know, that's,
yeah, no, that really, and somebody I saw that quite early on. Followers doesn't equal sales. And that really, again, sort of the penny really dropped with me. Like, okay, no, it doesn't, because I am making sales, and you know, so yeah, absolutely. I think I mean, it's nice, it feels nice, it feels like, but again, I try and remind myself that's not a validation that your business is great. The fact that you've got 10 extra followers, who cares really? Actually, the fact that, you know, somebody's placed an order, or, you know, and repeat customers, that's a real compliment. I think I've got lots of people that come back, and or send their friends, but you know, the returning customers, particularly over Christmas, there's been a lot of people that have come back to get another piece, and that just feels really nice. And that's a much better validation than, you know, 10 more followers on Instagram. So yeah, but yeah, it's all part of the game that we play now, isn't it? It's that free sort of marketing that we all have got at our fingertips, which is amazing. But it's just remaining not to get too hung up on it. I think I've had to remind myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you have a lovely Instagram, and we'll share the link to that in the show notes. And
it's very authentic. There's me sort of in my pajamas with pink specs and an optimizer. So I always just go like, keep it real. This is where the magic happens. It's 5 a.m. I'm here again.
That's what we want. We want to see the real deal, the real person behind the business. Absolutely. And so you've done so much, you know, in this year, and you've really thrown yourself in. You've made such good use of the bootcamp, and I know you've done lots of making training as well to like improve your skills. What one piece of advice would you say or give to someone who's sort of starting out or just restarting this year, going into 2023 and thinking, okay, how do I make this a great year? What worked for you?
I think, you know, we're all so different. You've got to do what you feel is comfortable for you. For some people, investing that amount of money and getting in that much debt that quickly would not be a comfortable space to be in, and I totally respect that. I'm a bit, because I've done it before, I feel a bit more confident to do it, but I think just go at your own pace. Bootcamp's brilliant. You know, definitely become an active part of the Jewellers Academy Facebook group, because it's such a supportive space. And that's really important, because, you know, if you've got anybody that's not supporting you, that can really get inside of your head. And I think it's really, Jewellers Academy is fantastic for that. So I would say dip in and out of that, listen to other people's experiences, and go at your own pace, really. You know, use the tools. It's not like you have to, it's not a scary thing that you have to do the 9 weeks and you have to complete, or 8 weeks, you have to complete every single bit of, and then you have to submit this big piece of written work. It's not like that at all. You can really dip in and out of it, and then the resources stay there for the rest of the time, so you can go back to them. So I would say use the resources in bootcamp. You know, if you need to regroup on your business and dip into something that you know, maybe need to improve on, or the business has been a bit asleep for a while, but you want to get back into it, then just take what you need from bootcamp, use the resources of all the other supportive members, and just go at your own pace. You know, I have gone really fast at it, and no one is more grateful or surprised that it's, you know, done as well as it has. But I've worked really, really hard. But I've been fortunate to be able to, I suppose, make that leap, because I had the support of just being able to pay the bills with the dog walking. So I think, yeah, if you're really serious about it, get some sort of transitional income in place, like with you with the nannying, and just, you know, so you're not completely stressed about paying your bills. Because the jewellery, although I've taken nigh on £40,000 this year now, I haven't paid myself an awful lot at all. Next year I hope to be able to do that. So I think, you know, it wasn't an overnight, this is how I'm going to pay my mortgage solution at all. I've had to sort of have a year of nastiness to get to that point, really. So just go at your own pace.
Yeah, great advice, absolutely. And it's just wonderful to hear how you've done it, because I think, like you said, we all have our own journeys, but it's always inspiring to hear other people's. And the last thing I wanted to ask you about, I feel like I could ask you about business all day, is your jewelry. Maybe you can share a bit more about it. And I know that, you know, you have the sustainable focus, which I think is really lovely. Perhaps you can share a bit about that and just what you like to make, why you love to make jewelry, because I think we can all relate to that.
I'm a big hammerer and a big melter. I'm very, very happy with a blowtorch in my hand. But yeah, my jewelry is quite organic, so I really like to use I use all recycled silver and gold, and that's so accessible now, which is brilliant. So that's really important to me. And ethically sourced gemstones. I don't use an awful lot of gemstones. I want to get more into gemstones. I've done 2 stone setting courses now. I'm never going to be a stone setter. I've decided I am never going to be a stone setter. But outsourcing. I think it's Hayley Kruger's podcast where she talks about outsourcing?
Sounds right. Sounds right to me.
Yeah,
most of us do it.
Yeah, and I was like, cool. I didn't know that was okay. I thought I had to be good at everything. You don't have to be good at everything. You know, I outsourced the website because there just weren't enough hours in my day. I have had some stone setting done for me. I was delighted with it. It was, you know, absolutely top-notch standard. Those stones are never going to fall out. I'm going to lose sleep over, you know, whether or not my stones are going to fall out. I'm just going to outsource it. It's just, you know, and I think that's another lesson that I've learned. That's absolutely fine to do that. So yeah, I think you know, I it's quite an organic style. I quite enjoy I've got quite a lot of molten. I can't wait to get back to some wax. I love wax carving. I can just lose hours. Like the kids don't get their dinner. It's like, Mum, can we eat? No. Yeah, in a minute. I just and actually, it's been a bit of not a production line because it's all handmade, but building up for Christmas and building up for the Christmas market, I felt like it was just a bit like the creativity. So I want to really regain the creativity the other side of Christmas and get back to sort of creating some different pieces. It will still be that sort of organic molten style. I like casting. I like water casting. I like, you know, cuttlefish casting. I really enjoy. I've got quite a lot of commissions booked for the new year. I just said to people no this side of Christmas. So I think I've got 8 or 9 commissions. So that will probably take me the best part of into spring. So I can be really creative around those pieces, so that's what I'm looking forward to, is getting back to being a bit creative and just going down some wax carving holes.
Absolutely. And creating pieces like that, especially when you've got quite a few lined up like you do, I find it helped you to find more inspiration for your new collections and to develop your style even further. So it sounds absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I am very excited to see what is next for you, to see your business kind of evolve and develop. And I think what I hear you saying is you kind of just threw everything at it this year and you've made it, you've got this structure, and now it's finding how to make it the best business for you, so you can be creative, so you can make a good profit, and so it can really kind of align with all the goals and values that you have. So I think that's going to be a wonderful path forward.
Well, I will definitely be on bootcamp again this year, and you know, and going forward, because I think there's always something you can take from it. There's always different people to listen to, and The mentors are amazing. So I think it's great for not just for beginners, but for people that are sort of moving their businesses forward.
Wonderful. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting started. So anyone who's listening and is interested in joining us for bootcamp this year, I will put a link in the show notes. Come and check it out. It is a really accessible, lovely program for complete beginners through to experienced jewelers. And as Corinne said, we're just there to support you on your goals, whatever they are. And yes, we're looking forward to growing some more jewelry businesses this year. And Corinne, how can people find out about your business online? Where is the best place for us to connect with you?
So I'm on Instagram. I'm Lulu and Boo Sustainable Jeweler on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook, and I am my website is luluandboojewellery.co.uk.
Yeah, and that's spelled Lulu.
Yes, that's Lulu is my daughter.
Oh.
And Boo, so it's LULUAND. Boo, yeah, he's a whippet.
Knew there had to be a dog influence somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing. Thank you for being so open and honest. And we wish you the best for this year coming forwards and in your business beyond.
Thank you.